pain point for me because I ain't been saved all my life. And so,
Look,
and so when
have
I
any of
so
us have any of us been saved our whole life?
all of a sudden, I said I had to read all of that to get to this part because this blessed me. You know how people say I stayed the whole time, and
Right. And
this is really what I came
that's
for.
what I need.
Welcome to the Lachey Johnson podcast. My name is Lachey Johnson, and here is where I have the conversation with men and women who just talk about living the life that God has already declared is theirs to have. If you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website at lacheyjohnson.com. And if by the end of this podcast, something's piqued your interest and you want to hear more, then I want to encourage you to like this post. I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I want you to share it with a friend. Now, this is 2024, January, and this is the first podcast that I've had. And I am so excited. Like I'm rocking back and forth. I almost couldn't even sleep last night because I know that God's timing is his kindness. And this conversation is going to be a timely conversation. I actually shared with you all in another clip, as I was saying, welcome to 2024 to be looking out. Well, guess what? Here it is. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I have Miss Sherri Richardson with me. She is, yes, I felt the drum roll in my spirit. That's why I had to pause. She is an accomplished urban educator with more than 20 years of experience in teaching and in mentoring, not just some people, but a diverse community. She's been called to the world. She is a devoted wife, a mother of 3, and a bonus mama, which I love, to 2 children. Her husband, Joe, and her, they use their relationships, their experience of blended families, not just for themselves, but to mentor and develop and encourage multi-generational couples to not live just a life, but to live the God life, the Zoe, the John 10 and 10, healthy relationships, marriages, and family. Sherri was employed as a Mercer County Youth Detention Center, and she had an opportunity to counsel and historically underserved youth. So I don't know about you, but you probably hear that in the background. I love Siri. Do you hear? She talking to us. That's
Yeah.
all right. Look, be quiet, Siri. Okay. Sherri earned her undergraduate and master's degree from the College of New Jersey. She is currently pursuing her organizational leadership, a doctoral degree, y'all. Let's just take a moment of silence. I'm just saying, she's researching and studying the best practices for educating males of color in urban high schools. She's clear about her calling. And I'm telling you, you want to buckle up. You want to get your notepad because I believe there's going to be some jewels, diamonds, and nuggets that's going to be dropped on today because she also is a coach, y'all. Can you help me welcome Sherri Richardson to the podcast? What up, Cher?
Hey, Shay. Oh my goodness. It is so great to be here. I'm like listening to that. I said, oh, did I do that?
Let me tell you, I have had times where I've been invited to be on other people's podcasts and they ask me to share with them a little bit about me. And then when I hear it, I go, oh, that's me. They talk
Right.
about me. To God be
Yes.
all the glory. Well, listen, sis, I'm so glad that you are here with us. I said it. This conversation is right on time.
It
Like we are
is.
in God's time. We are in His flow. And I just want to get to know you a little bit better. I want the listeners to be able to get to know you a little bit better. And so
Excellent.
I always start off with icebreakers.
All right.
And
Let's go.
I do tell people share it to the level of your comfort.
Mhm.
And we don't know. So I also, Sherri, I forgot to tell you this. I use the analogy of driving a stick. Here's the irony to that. I have never driven a stick before. So right
Really?
now, I think we're in the down gear of like just kind of getting started. And
Mhm.
then we'll move this conversation into some personal questions. And then we'll kind of come to a place where I want to hear more about any accomplishments or projects or the purpose that you are walking in right now.
Oh, yes.
So, all right, Cher, let's go.
Let's
Let's
get
have
it.
the conversation.
Let's go.
Can you tell our listeners where did you grow up at and did that affect who you became?
Oh, yes. I tell people literally, I just had this conversation with my school social worker yesterday. And she said, where are you from, Miss Richardson? I said, New Jersey. And she said, huh? I said, all over New Jersey. So I was born in South Jersey. I was born in Cumberland County, and I grew up in a predominantly Black community.
Mhm.
It's ironic that I am a school administrator because I spent much time in the principal's office as a young
Wait a
lady.
minute. I'm not letting you glaze over that because I just can't imagine that. Like, I think back to my high school years and I might have got detention like once. And I think it was because I rolled my skirt up. I went to a Catholic high school and I rolled my skirt up. And so the nuns came with the ruler and it wasn't long enough. And they sent me to in, and I was devastated. So
Yes,
you spent time
I
in the
did.
principal.
I did. And we're going to get into why later on. I'm sure we will. But yes, as a child, I went through a lot in my childhood. So I dealt with that with anger.
Mm,
And this mouth right here, life and death was definitely in it. And so I spent some time in the principal's office. And my mom, who did not want me to be a statistic, said, we need to make some moves. And literally, Lachey, where they moved me to, my parents, I was in culture shock. I grew up in Warren County, which most people are like, where is a Warren County? It is in the northern western side of New Jersey. And in 1978, not 1954, not 1930, 1978, my sister and I integrated our elementary school. We
mm.
were the first Black students to attend. So
Wow.
you talk about culture shock, but I appreciated my mom's decision because she knew she needed to get me out of that environment if I
Yeah.
was even to have a chance of reaching the full potential that she knew God had in me. And so I grew up in northern New Jersey in Warren County. Then I ended up when I went to college in central Jersey, which does exist. There is a central Jersey, y'all.
I
And
know it's like it's either north or south. I'm like,
right,
yeah, there's a central Jersey,
there's a
but
central Jersey. I live in it. And so I ended up going to school it was Trenton State at the time, but it is now the College of New Jersey. And I stayed in the area. And so I literally have been in every part of New Jersey as I grew up. And yes, those experiences have totally shaped who I am because, like I said, I don't know the trajectory of my life had the decision not been made to move me to the
yeah,
area where my mom did, but God knew. And
yeah,
so I'm thankful for his divine intervention and how in all of his omniscience and, sovereignty, he knows where we're going to be at any given moment. And he
sure.
puts those things in place for us. And so, yes, I am an educator. I am
Sure.
where I am and who I am as a result of the areas and the places where I have
Sure.
traveled through my
Sure.
lifetime.
Well, I'm going to tell you as I'm listening to you just kind of share how you have crossed the state of New Jersey. I'm actually not surprised because what you shared with us was how you serve diverse communities. So when we think about the blueprint of one's life, or we think about how God said he knew you before you even entered into your mother's womb, he knew that you would span the state of New Jersey because of what you were going to be called to as it related to teaching and mentoring in diverse communities. You needed to be able to relate to the various communities. So I just had to, I don't want to glaze over that. Like I'm listening, but I'm like, she just told us, like she's got 20 years of experience in
Yes,
teaching and mentoring diverse communities, not just some. And so if you see that how he has woven that experience in, to me, that's a handprint of saying he knew before you knew, before
he
your
sure
parents
did.
knew that this is where what needed
He
to
did.
happen. He needed you to be mouthy.
Yes. Sassy.
He needed you to be mouthy. He needed you to put your he needed that to happen. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
love that. I
Absolutely.
absolutely love it.
And
So,
I do. You learn how to be all things to all people. And
mhm,
so in any environment within which I find myself, I know how to operate. And
I
so I
love
thank
it.
God for
I
that.
love that. I love it. Absolutely love it. So Cher, we're still getting to know you. What is your favorite pastime and why?
My favorite pastime. Actually, I love being with family.
Okay.
One thing Joe and I say, my husband Joe, we say all the time, whatever we do or don't do, we do it together and we have fun. And so whether that is home chilling, watching Lifetime movie or HGTV,
Come on, Joe, for the Lifetime movies.
Lifetime movie. That's, mind you, that's his go-to. I'm
Okay.
a HGTVer, but
Okay.
he and or whether we're out, hanging out. We actually just went to go see the Temptations. That was part of his Christmas present that I bought for him. And
Okay.
so, whether we're hanging out there, whether we're home, whether we're with the kids or KJ, the grandchild, like whatever we do or don't do, we just enjoy being together as family. And so that literally is my favorite pastime. I love relaxing and just letting my hair down
Love
and
that.
just chill. I'm also a exercise person. I love my bike. I love
Okay.
my bike outside. My
Okay.
stationary bike, I can give or take, but I love being out. When I ride, that is my time
Wow.
with God and in nature and just looking at the all of Him. And so I do, when the weather is nice, I do love being.
I'm loving this, Cher. I've known you for many, many, many years, and I did not know that you like to bike.
Love it.
Wow. I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Love
That's
it.
that's when I think about taking my Sabbath, which I do on Mondays, I'm always thinking like, what can I do that is not related to paid or unpaid work? And so
Right.
just to hear you talk about being out and amongst the creation, like just taking all of that in, that's so beautiful. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the last time I've been on a bike. I mean, not a bicycle outside.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, people going crazy over these Peloton bikes, but yeah, I ain't. Yeah, I'm a walker. I like to walk. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. All right. I love that. Now,
Yes.
here's a question that usually either stumps me or triggers me or is a pain point for me because I ain't been saved all my life. And so
Look,
and so when
have
I
any of
so
us have any of us been saved our whole life?
so when I ask people, I'm like, what's your favorite movie? And what does it reveal about you? I
Mhm.
think I had someone on here last year and they said Love Jones. I said, hold up. Here what we not gonna do. We not we not getting ready to resurrect the things. Amen. We just not gonna do it.
You have
So
to hold yourself.
I had to listen. I almost stopped the recording. I was so triggered. I said,
Oh,
who knew that you still wasn't healed from that? So
right,
yeah. So
right.
what's your favorite movie and what does it reveal about you?
My favorite movie is actually Love and Basketball.
Oh my God.
Uh-oh, you have a
Okay, wait,
story.
wait,
Go
wait, wait,
ahead.
wait. So, oh my God, I just got chills. Okay, let me just take a moment. I just got chills. Let me tell you why I got chills. Because that was her of the movie. And I told
Really?
her, I said, I don't think I've ever watched the whole
Oh
thing.
no. Oh no.
Okay, so
Oh no.
let me hear.
Not
Tell me
just hear you say that.
what does love and basketball reveal about you?
First of all, the time era was my era.
Mm,
So the time that, they were going through their high school years was my 84 to 88. Those were so the time period was just me. The music was me. And then the experience. I played ball.
okay,
I did three sports a year. Well, to hear my coaches say it, I did two sports a year. They didn't count cheerleading as a sport, but I did.
okay,
So I did cheerleading, basketball, and track and field all through high school. So that basketball love and what I've learned through organized sports and teamwork and from my coaches and other things was I could just relate. And then also dealing with struggles
yeah,
that you look at Monica in that time period and just really trying to figure out who she was and where she fit in and how to validate herself, not so much connected to sports or other things, but just who she was. And so I think about those things when I look at that movie. And then I just love love. That's the
okay.
other part.
You're
And
a
so
romantic.
I
Okay,
am a romantic. And
okay,
one thing in that movie I realized is when you love somebody, regardless of the ups, downs, left, right, turns, twists, you find
come
your way
through.
back to yourself. If that's who God has for you, it's already been aligned.
Oh
And
Lord,
so that's
let me
my
get my
that's
tissue.
my thing.
Let me get my
Mhm.
tissue.
That's it.
Let me get my tissue because when you love someone, I think about that movie Andy Garcia, and I think was it Megan Ryan, When a Man Loves a Woman? You ever see that?
Mhm.
Baby, say less, Lachey. Let's just back up
That's
out of
it.
it. Because if you Google the movie, you will know exactly what I'm talking
That's
about.
it.
My God,
Mhm.
today.
So
Wow.
that's my movie. That's
Okay.
my thing.
Now let me ask you this, because when I find a favorite movie, like it's on repeat. Like I could binge watch it. I'm not oh, we are not going there today, but I am currently watching Grey's Anatomy because apparently
How?
because
How?
apparently I was the only one in the universe that was not watching it 20 some years ago. I guess it was 2005 maybe, so it's not quite 20, but close enough. So apparently I'm the only one in the world
In the world.
that did not know
Mm.
about Dr. McDreamy,
Oh,
apparently.
wow. Mm.
So I have been binge watching for weeks and it's got 19 seasons. So do the math. I'm currently on season 10. I'm not proud of that. I do have time to open my Bible, but I watch TV too. And
Uh-huh.
so I have certain movies on repeat. And I'm just wondering, like, how often do you revisit watching Love and Basketball? Like, do you just wait for it to pop up in your TV thread, or you go, "Hey, Joe, let's, movie night. Let's watch Love and Basketball."
Actually, with this doctorate degree, Lachey, nothing's been on repeat. When I tell you, nothing other than this
Oh,
laptop and my Google Drive and these
okay.
60 articles that I'm finishing. But
I get it. I
but
so I so get that.
but I'll put it this way: I have watched it enough that I can do the lines.
Okay.
I've watched it enough.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I think, yeah, let's move on.
Yes.
I could go there. I am pretty much a movie buff, and it's really interesting because when I share that with people, it's almost like they go, "You watch TV?" I'm like, "Absolutely, I watch TV." But I've got these ebbs and flows, like what you're saying, where you've got to be head down and focused in another area. So I
Absolutely.
totally get it. But yeah, when I get off this podcast with you, sometime today, because it's every day, I'm watching Meredith, who I'm not a fan of, by the way. No offense to you Grey's Anatomy
Sorry.
people.
Sorry.
I'm just not a fan of hers. Like I love Christina. Yeah. So anyway, I'm Grey's Anatomy probably until springtime. I'll come back and let y'all know how that worked out for me.
Yes, and that's why I said with the length of time, I'm like, how are you getting through that? But
Baby,
yeah.
listen.
Mhm.
So it's actually at night. It's actually at nighttime. It feels like a pretty much routine. So like during the day, obviously I'm working, but praise be unto God, I'm in full-time ministry and I work primarily remotely. I'm getting all the things done. And so in the morning, I've got my morning routine, right? But when I slide down and I'm coming out of all the work, that's my way of kind of unwinding. I will turn it on and sometimes I might just be listening to it in the background while I'm in the kitchen cooking. And then, yeah, so I probably get, probably 3 to 4 episodes a day. And it's
Good for
and I'll
you.
tell you, when I first started, I was like, why are you still up at midnight? And I would look up at my TV. I said, fool, you still watch you
Still watching. Still watching.
watching.
Sometimes it's probably watching you, but you're still watching.
And
Mhm.
got the nerve to tell the TV to don't cut it off. Cause the thing will pop
Right?
up and be like, are you finished? You've been watching it so long.
Yep.
Are you finished watching? I'm
I'm
like, no,
not.
don't ask me
Right?
again. Just
No, I'm not. Yes.
keep it playing. So I mentioned to you as we got started that I've never driven a 5-speed, a stick shift car. I've never done that. But we're getting ready to switch gears and
Okay.
we're going to get a little personal. So thank you for warming us up and welcoming
Absolutely.
us into Sherri Richardson's world. And this is, again, my reminder, say, hey, share to the level of your comfort. I do believe that what you will share is going to help at least one person. I know for me, I've got my pen. I'm
Mhm.
ready to hear what God is going to say in and through you. So with that being said, share, what is one of your biggest challenges that you're facing right now or you have recently faced in life?
That is a great question. I have I've come such a long way. I will say I'm gonna revert back to my initial conversation with you when I was talking about we'll get into the trauma that made me so angry as a child. And so when I think about my childhood, I am a survivor of child molestation.
Mm,
And that created an anger in me that I carried through life. And what I had to learn, which still continues to be a challenge, and I'm going to tell you why, is because it became a generational pattern. So
mm,
not just myself, but my children experienced. And so forgiveness has been a challenge
Mhm.
for me. I felt when I came out of my childhood trauma and I became an adult, I felt like I had forgiven, but then to experience that again, it was like the wound had ripped open. And so what I'm realizing is forgiveness is not for the other person, it's
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And truth be told, like we've learned, they have a debt that they can't pay me back anyway. So therefore, let me wipe it clean, because regardless of what you do,
Yeah.
you cannot restore all that has been taken from me from 4 years old till I was an adult. And
Yeah.
so that challenge is ongoing, but I thank God, because the more you expose the enemy,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
freer you become.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so instead of constantly covering and hovering, I said, mm-mm, I'm gonna start exposing, because
Yeah.
in those conversations comes
Wow.
my healing and my true ability to forgive the person who did this. They obviously were broken. They
Yeah.
obviously have gone through some, and the grace that has been extended to me, I needed to extend to that person as
Yeah.
well. And so I
Yeah.
thank God for that. I thank him for the ability
Wow.
to use forgiveness as that door opener to my healing, my deliverance, and ultimately my purpose.
Yeah. Wow. That's, and you and I have talked
Mhm. We have.
about it. So thank you for your willingness to even share that story, because like I said, this is going to help at least one other person. And again, as believers, you and I both are, we're sisters in Christ,
Yeah.
and we know that everything was bore on the cross by Christ. I think the thing share sometimes and I'm a little choked up, is that as believers, somewhere along our growing up, there may have been a messaging to like suppress it and to not talk about it
So
and just
true.
believe Jesus will fix it. Yes, he will fix it, but there's an acknowledgement of the pain and the experience that is real.
Right.
And he already knows, you see? So it's almost like even when we go to him in prayer, we're not notifying God of anything new. We are simply acknowledging and getting in agreement with who he said he is and will always be and has always been.
Right.
And I just think, like, some of the secrets that we keep, and I can speak, to people that I've talked to in certain ethnic backgrounds. You hear the saying, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And then you find that children are walking around with things and they're trying to figure out who they're supposed to share it with. And you and I both, I used to be an educator. We actually worked together.
Mm.
And I could just remember God even using the gifting of discernment for me to see when a child was in pain and knowing how to navigate it without shaming or guilting that child or their family.
Absolutely.
So I just want to thank you. I just, yeah, we could really go there. We could
Good.
probably stay right here and just really talk about that connection of family and shame and guilt and experiences that, sometimes you think you're the only one, but you're not. And even the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. And so there's someone
Absolutely.
else that's experiencing or has experienced that kind of trauma. And then to know your calling to help the underserved, to help, diverse communities. God just he makes no mistakes. He makes no mistakes. And I just want to thank you for sharing that. I do have a follow-up because that is an intimacy experience. And so with your marriage, did that present any hindrances or challenges with you and your husband?
Absolutely. It definitely did. I even in, because this is my second marriage, even in my first marriage, many of the decisions I made early on in that relationship were out of the brokenness that I experienced from childhood.
Wow.
And so again, when though that trauma is unresolved, it carries way into adulthood. And I remember there were many things as it related to intimacy, trusting men, the closeness. I was very guarded. I was very controlling over what I allowed. and especially from a man. And so again, dealing with that for years, it took time for me to really, really face what I had dealt with
Yeah.
and how not even, I think even for me, it was important for me to get my healing. But once I had, and this is where I said, God, you're really funny because I remember asking him, I didn't want daughters.
Mm.
Not,
Wow.
God,
And
give
you
me a
had
healthy
to
child. Give me a healthy child. No, I
just,
want a son. I don't, because in my brain, boys didn't get molested for whatever reason in my brain. That's not true.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? But when I had my first daughter, love her, beautiful. 2 years later, my second, I'm like, all right, God, you're real funny. Then we waited 8 years. I said, okay, this is gonna be my boy. This is gonna be the one. Joy. I got a joy
I
instead of
remember Joy.
you
Oh
know.
gosh.
And so I laugh at it. Now that's how I know my healing and my deliverance is because I can smile at it now. But
Yes.
I remember even those conversations that I had with God subconsciously were based out of the trauma that I dealt
Yeah.
with. And so many years of healing. But what I appreciate now is the fact that God knew I would be the one to change it.
Yeah. I
So
love
we talk about generational patterns and we talk about, like you said, what happens in this family. We don't discuss it. We come, and even families that have God centered, we still adopt these ideologies and these belief
yes.
systems. And so for me, it was my next generation will not deal with this. And
Mhm.
although it touched my children, I thank God that we have been able to really, really have those conversations. So whenever my children decide to have children, if that's their choice, we already know what we need
Yeah.
to do differently
Yeah.
because we are breaking it. And
Yeah.
so, that those challenges came in the decisions that I made in my previous marriage. But then I thank God for Joe.
Hmm.
I entered this relationship very broken,
Hmm.
very, very broken. And for the first time in my 53 years on this earth,
Come on, beauty.
I am able, I am able to honestly say I trust a man. I can be vulnerable. And God knew what I needed
Ooh.
when I needed it. So
Ooh,
I thank him for
okay.
that.
All right. I just had a moment when you said that I need to have you guys back together.
Oh,
On-
absolutely. Look, he would
Yeah.
love that.
I'm actually, yeah. Okay. Oh gosh.
Mhm,
Because I just literally thought about another couple. But anyway, okay. Definitely. Before
mhm.
the year is out, I gotta have both of you back on here.
We'll
So
do it.
as you were talking about Joy coming along,
Yes.
I was reminded of when you and I used to serve in ministry together, the children's ministry.
Yes, the
So
nursery, the baby.
everybody gets their turn. Let's just be really clear. Like sometimes people, so I leaned in. Sometimes people, they feel called. They like David, like working on the field, working with the sheep. It's like, no, 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 no. You gotta go back and finish doing what he called you to. So we've got 20 some years of being in ministry.
Don't we?
But we started with them babies and we had babies. Like there was no if you not potty trained, or you need a bottle. It was like come one, come all. And we would leave up out of there with cheese doodle prints on the back of us and on the front of us. And I thank God for that. So that to me, and then to see years later share how again, I tell you, he writes the story how you and I ended up in a classroom together. It was your eighth grade classroom, and then I
Yes.
came and I co-taught. There's so much there, and people don't
Oh, I love
always
that though.
know the connection. So I think
Mm-mm.
sometimes when they see how people engage, they go like, "How do they?" I'm like, "Child, you don't even know. Like we got history.
We
Like
have history.
I was
And
at the I was at the
yes.
house blessing when you had your house built. Like I like we got we
And
got
it's crazy because I literally, you must have been with me yesterday, Shay, because in the same conversation that I had with my social worker at work, we were talking about our students from that year. And
Okay.
I remember we fought for we had this one young lady. She was the only student who was pulled out of our class and how traumatizing that was. And we had to, you and I, we had to go to bat for her
Mhm.
so that she could stay in our class. And that I remember that particular class, the average, they scored higher on NJ. It wasn't not NJSLA now, but it was what GEPA maybe back in the day. remember
I do.
23 points higher. That we were the bomb.
And
We had
Cher, I don't know if you remember, I wrote an article for ASCD because I was still in education, and I
yes.
used that example in there
Mhm.
about the power of co-teaching. So, girl, we could
We
go on.
could.
We could go
We
on. We
could.
could go on. We could go on. But let me
History.
ask this as we kind of shift a little bit. So, you shared that very personal, intimate experience with you and with your family. And so I'm wondering, do you think or feel or have ever considered that that's what's driving your passion to do what you're doing now? Does it have any connection to
It
that?
does. It absolutely does. I remember when I was at the Youth Detention Center, you talked about that discernment that comes, that sensitivity that comes through our life experiences. And I dealt with many underserved youth. They called them at risk at the time. They weren't at
Yes.
risk, you know,
Yes.
they were underserved.
Yeah.
And so I remember this one young lady, Latino young girl, beautiful. And she came in and I was the social service supervisor. And so I did all of the intake interviews. I did mini socials, and then I shared information with the court. And in our, it was something about her. I saw this inner beauty with her, but I felt that she had gone through that same trauma. And just in our general conversations, my youth house kids, I call them my youth house kids, they knew I love God. They knew it. And again, I had no problem there. I had no problem in school. People knew I love
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
is what it is. And so in our conversation, I was able to discern that she had gone through a situation like that. And I was able to work with advocating for her and empowering her and strengthening her. And she went on to do great things. But in that situation, I was very, very open and non-judgmental of
Yeah.
young people that I had come in. You know, oh,
Yes.
you deal with criminals. No, I'm dealing with young people who are
Yeah.
surviving in situations that are very, very difficult.
Yes.
And so what I found was I was constantly seeing the deficit that was happening in our brown and black communities when
Yeah.
I worked at the youth detention center. And I said, okay, this is a bit draining for me. Let me shift to another sector that maybe I could see more positive results. And that's, I literally met an attorney who I worked in the courts with who opened up a charter school.
Wow.
And as a result of that, I said, oh, and I said to him, you know, so I'm not going to put his name out here, but I said, you know, if I want to become a teacher, he's like, I will hire you in a heartbeat. And I said, okay. And that's literally how I shifted to
Yeah.
education, hoping that on the other side, I would see more positive results. I would see more anti-deficit, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
stories. And I didn't, Shay.
Oh, Cher, don't
I
do it.
didn't.
I
I
get
did
it.
not.
Listen, we worked at the same place together.
Mhm.
That's a different story for another time. But when I transitioned out, I went to go work for a very large organization for the state for the state, and I saw this disparity. There was one school district where they literally had to physically carry me out. I was so overwhelmed by what I was seeing. I was crying. I was hurt. I remember I had peers who were very disappointed in me when I went to one of our largest districts in the state to go work. They was like, they don't have any need for you. And I said, I'm going because I need to see what they're doing that we're not doing.
Right.
Like to get the clarity on like why I'm doing this is not about like being a part of, I need to see how they are allocating their funds
Right.
to ensure that every child, this is years ago,
Equity. Right.
is not left behind.
Mhm.
We have all these different initiatives. So that's a, and I still to this day, my babies that were at village with me, I had taught them in first grade, lived with them in second grade, and then to this day, 2024, they have graduated from college. How do I know that? Because of the impact that I made with them and their families in for like it's God just he's been kind to me. Because
Yes.
when he called me out of ministry, I was just like, why? Well, I mean, out of marketplace, I said, why are you doing that? I said, I love what I do. I'm
Mhm.
good at what I do. And you created me. So
Right.
why are you asking me to put this down to go into ministry? And it was really, really hard. But he showed me how the skills and talents and resources would still transfer over in my ministry role. So I totally, that's a pain point for me, because
Mhm.
the disparity is still very, very real. And when you get down granularly to even look at how programming is introduced or how policy is made, I'm just like, I would say this: do we have children in our heart when we're making these decisions?
Ugh,
Or are we thinking about
yes,
what is best for us as adults?
right. And we know the answer to that. Hypothetical question number
Wow.
two.
And
And
this is
so
why other people have started charter schools or started
mm,
homeschooling. You call it whatever you want, because you know that there's a gap somewhere in what our kids are experiencing and what they
and
need.
that
Wow.
literally is why I decided to research what I researched at this doctoral level, because most of the research shows the failures of education in our communities,
Mhm.
the school to prison pipeline data, or the failure to graduate on time, the lack of enrollment in post-secondary education, and like all of these deficits, suspension rates, and child study team refer, all of these things. And I said, it does not have to be this way. It is
Yeah.
not designed to be this way.
Yeah.
And so coming from the youth detention center, shifting into education, because my thought was I would see something different, but I'm just in a place where now God can position me to be
Yeah.
a change agent in this area,
Oh yeah.
in urban communities. Can you
Oh yeah.
imagine when we change the narrative, what that will do for
Oh
young,
yeah.
our Black and brown males who literally are an endangered species at this point in time?
Yeah. And the thing that also comes to mind, Cher, as we're talking, and I'm thinking about when I was in the classroom, was this idea, notions that parents don't care. I
That is so
never I
true.
never understood that. I'm like,
Mhm.
most parents love their children and they want what's best. Sometimes there's a lack of understanding of what questions to ask to better support their children. And so, when you have these underserved families or underserved communities, there's going to be a variation of exposure, right? Some of them may have never graduated from high school or have never gone to college, or maybe the first that has gone to college in their family. And so, as educators or people that are on the other side that's serving their children, we equally have a responsibility to teach them, to help them know when you go into a parent conference and a teacher is talking to you about your child's reading level, you need to understand what that means, because to them, it sounds like Charlie Brown, wonk, wonk,
Want,
wonk,
want,
wonk,
want,
wonk.
right.
And so, even in that, I think there's some advocacy, and which is why you have these parent advocacy groups who are helping to develop and support those families. But no one should ever be making the assumption that because of my living conditions or what you perceive I have or don't have means that I don't love or care or want the best for my child. I mean, I've seen people come out of the gutter and go on to Harvard because they had a community and a tribe that was around them. So yeah, I can go there because that is for
Oh,
sure
yes, absolutely.
100% a pain point for me still today. And I'm not in education, but when I see my babies, when I talk to my young people that have already graduated, I am, like you said, to the girl that walked into your office, I'm letting them know I see you.
See you. I see you.
And in this moment, it's me and you do matter.
Yes.
And you do add value to the space that you're in. And you're going to go on and do great things. So we could go there because,
That's what I
people.
tell. Listen, every young person I come in contact with, I let them, I said, you are an answer to a problem in this earth. They
Yes.
look at me like, what are you talking about, Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
You were
Yes.
created as a problem solver.
Yes. Yes. They
Let's
just
tap
they
into
just
that.
need someone to rally
You
around,
do.
and for us to remove the stigmas and the thoughts about people. And it happens. It really does. I mean, as a parent, I'll flip it over. I have been in spaces where I had to let people know, oh no, my son got a tribe.
Mhm.
He got a whole community.
Hello.
So I could be a single mom, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the handprint of a male in his life. You can see the fruit
You
as a
can.
result of that, because I'm
Mhm.
not trying to be a man. So yeah, so sometimes I have to back people up, but like,
Oh, you
don't
do.
don't make no assumptions
Absolutely.
about me because I'm single
Absolutely.
and I'm
Mhm.
raising my baby. So yeah, same way with my daughter. But this is so good. Cher, we're not gonna get through everything, and that's
It's
fine. That
okay.
that's
I
that,
can come
that's so
back, y'all. I can come
that
back.
that listen, that is totally okay. So
It
I
is.
do want to ask this question because I often ask myself of it because as women who are one beautiful and then you're anointed and then you're confident and then you are you're clear about your calling, you walk with your head held high, you can be mislabeled, right? And so my question to you, because I'm answering, because I had somebody tell me that sometimes you walk with your chest puffed out. I'm just like, and then all of a sudden I wanted to shrink because I'm just like, that's not really, I'm happy. I feel good about myself. I'm clear about what I'm supposed to do. I'm not in your lane and I'm high fiving and celebrating you. And I'm asking God to, take comparison and jealousy and envy and all those things out of my heart because the flesh is real, right? But
Right.
but I'm just wondering, what's something that people misunderstand about you?
Oh, yes. Because that assertiveness can be misunderstood. But I believe it's the way I care for people. I have a huge heart. And at the end of the day, Shay, I want people to get it. Like, I
Yeah,
just want people to get it. And so the methods by which I express that, I think, can sometimes be misunderstood.
yeah,
I am an encourager. That is a gift God has given me. However, I can also cut you.
yeah.
And I tell
Come
people,
on, Peter.
I
See, they
do.
forget that Peter was in the
Yeah.
Bible. Peter was cussing and he was cutting
Yeah.
people.
I tell people, I say, y'all got to understand, I lay hands in and out of the name of Jesus. Which one do you want today? Because I can go both ways. And so
Oh
I
God.
think because I see and I listen and I feel and I look, I determine what you need. And sometimes you don't need the fluffy stuff.
Yeah,
Sometimes I need to cut away some
yeah,
things. And
yeah.
so I think sometimes the way that I show my heart and the way that I care, people can misunderstand.
You just made me think. So this morning, oh God, I'm not gonna get to all of it. This morning I was up and I was doing my reading. I just got finished reading the book of Ezra. If you've never read it, this is like my third time. So good.
Mhm.
Just this the rebuilding of temple, rebuilding of yourself, rededicate. So good. But I'm also reading through the gospels. I started back in November from Matthew all the way through John.
Yes,
I am now currently
I did that
in
last year.
in in Luke. So there's 89 chapters. I was like, I'm gonna do one chapter a day. And even this morning, as I was reading about how Jesus spoke, Luke uses the word he rebuked sternly. And see, sometimes we don't like that.
No.
Because it's like, oh, you saved, you got
Mhm.
Jesus. Yep. But he spoke
Mhm.
sternly to
Mhm.
that thing, and then it came out. So I don't play with the devil, but the devil be
Neither.
trying to play with me.
You don't
And
like
he
me and I
got
don't like
those
him.
tricks. And
We
every
have a
so
mutual
often,
agreement.
I gotta get a little testosterone in me, and my octave might go down a little bit. But you gonna get checked if
Mhm.
you just let me. If I see you coming, and I know this ain't nothing but the enemy,
Yes.
I'm not going to be speaking in Mary Had a Little Lamb voice.
No.
I'm going to make sure that my facial expression, because a lot of times too, share people be trying to have conversations through a text. And they even want to have a phone call. Just hear me out. Like if I want to make sure I'm clear, I want to be in the room so you can
Right.
feel me. You can
You see me.
you can see me.
You
And
get
I'm
it
just
all.
like, I don't want to talk about this no more.
Right.
So I love that Jesus was a model for me. Even when he went into the temple, he turned over tables. He was a lion and he
Right.
was a lamb. And I
You're gonna
think
land right.
sometimes we forget that aspect of it, but it's interesting that you say how you speak because I read it this morning. He spoke sternly. Now look it up. You know what that meant? He wasn't saying, "Oh, come and follow me." No, he's like,
No.
"Cut it
Hi. He tapped. How you doing? How you doing? That's what he
like
did.
cut it all the way out."
That's it.
I love that. So we're going to get ready to shift another gear, but before we do, I'm just wondering, we are in 2024 and sometimes people will reflect back on the year or the previous years and I'm just wondering, do you find that there is anything different about you since last year?
I do. I feel like I have matured. I mature. I stay in the posture of a student. I truly believe I am a lifelong learner. And so I'm constantly looking at ways to grow and to
Yeah,
mature, to
love
change. And
that.
I'm very different this year. I feel like with every new year that God gives me, I'm coming up on a birthday at the end of this month, and so
Okay.
it'll be another year, and I become more free.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
some
Slow
people can
down, slow
handle
down. That
it.
that had anointing. It was dripping.
Mhm.
You was like, I just become free. I
Mhm.
so get that.
Don't you?
You know, we used to hear our elders say it get better with time. It gets greater. Like, I think I'm starting to understand what that means. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not, first of all, you see this head of gray. I've always been gray. The pandemic just
Right.
decided that I was going to be fully gray. I don't resist it. But there is something about maturing that is so beautiful.
Is liberating.
Oh my
Mm,
God.
mm.
I mean, it's like I can see clearly now that the rain is fall. Like I can see, like you can't just come and shuck and jive. I'm like, I've got experience, I've got history with God. I'm
Exactly.
doing what I need to do, and the liberation that comes out of that is that you walk differently.
So freeing. Yes. Yes.
You
So
messing me up. I just need 1 minute. Just
take it.
So I am going to ask you if you know what book are you currently reading, but I got a stack of books on my desk right now. I am a reader. Clearly, we're educators, so I'm a lover of just reading all things. But first and foremost, I do open my Bible. I feel like my ministry, I am called to encourage people to open their Bible.
Yes.
I follow or are part of a community called She Reads Truth, where women are just in the Word every single day. They've got a podcast, and I could put all that in the show notes. But I'm really like I've been saved all my life, and you've known me for over 20 some years, and I've been in church most of my life. But it hasn't been until just recently, these last years, that I remember praying, and this is one of our 8-7 cultures, to have hunger, an insatiable appetite for God's word and for his presence.
Yes.
And for me, I know that prayer doesn't change some things, that it changes all things.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea, Sherri, that my palate for God's word would flame in the way that it is, so much so that I can attend every conference. I can go to church every Sunday. I can be a part of small groups. But if I don't stop and open that word for myself, I feel like something is missing.
Yes.
So I just needed to stop for a moment to
I
say that.
agree.
But we were just
Mm-hmm.
talking about what you just said, and this just triggered something about this book that I'm reading. I finished it. It's called Setting Boundaries,
Oh,
um, a guide to reclaiming yourself. And I'll put it in the show notes. I actually
yes.
discovered it from a young lady who I follow, which is a different thing because I do watch you. I do watch some people on YouTube, but I've read the whole book. Let me just, I gotta say this slow because this is so good. And I'll probably say it again somewhere else. I read the whole book, right? And then I got to the end. And then all of a sudden, I said I had to read all of that to get to this part because this blessed me. You know how people say I stayed the whole time, and
Right.
this is really what I came
That's
for.
what I needed.
Like I read the whole thing, and I got to the end, and she was talking about tips on considering when rekindling relationships. Now you can take this context however you want, whether it's all right, okay. She said, ask yourself these questions. What do you expect to be different?
Mm.
Has the situation person truly changed?
Mhm.
What is the evidence that the person or situation is different? Are you well matched with the other person, or are you merely fixated on the relationship working out?
Oh my.
If nothing has changed, here we go, baby, are you willing to repeat what you experienced before? When I tell you,
Mm.
I didn't
Mm-mm.
make one mark in the book, but I got this circle. I got a tab there. I said, will you come on, Miss Nidra Glover? And I don't want to mess up her last name, Tawwab, but I discovered her from someone else. When I tell you an easy read
Oh my goodness.
about establishing boundaries and relationships with friendships, it just blessed me. But I got to that last piece and I said, am I willing to experience the same thing I did if all those questions that I just add, like, ain't I don't see
Exactly.
no fruit. Nothing's changed in your
That
life.
was it. When you read that question about the evidence, I said that was it for me. What's the evidence?
What's the evidence of the change? So to hear you talk about how you've grown over the last year, you feel free, you feel liberated. I think that ties very much into one of your favorite scriptures, which is Romans 8:28.
Yes.
I'm reading it in the Christian Standard Version. We know that all things work
Yes.
together for the good of those who love God. And then sometimes we stop, but he says, who are called
That's it.
according to not our purpose, but to his purpose. And so I'm just encouraged by that. So we got a little bit time left, but before
Mhm.
we go, Sherri, I just want you to share with us any projects that you're currently working on. We know that you're pursuing your doctoral degree, but I'm just wondering, are there any projects that you're working on? What's the best advice your mentor, or if you have a mentor, has ever given you? I see you've got your Delta Sigma Theta
It
on.
is our Founders Day today. Oh, yes, it is.
I love that. I love that. I
111
love
years of
that.
service. I say yes, yes, yes.
I love that. I
Mhm.
love that for you all. So share with us, any project that you're working on.
Yes,
Is
yes.
there it has there been any part of advice that they gave where you were just like, yeah, I don't want to do that?
Yeah, a lot of that. That's look.
Not your will, but your will.
That's the thing. That right there, I'm just like, there were so many things that have been, shared and talked and dropped. Like we talk about nuggets through the years, and I'm like, it didn't click till I got older.
Yeah.
But one thing that I always held to, one of my basketball coaches in high school, he was my history teacher also, but I just remember him. He always talked about how we put the work ethic that we put into whatever we do. Now, mind you, he was my basketball coach, but he was not just talking basketball. He was talking life. He was talking education and whatever we put our hand to do. He said, it takes practice. You
Yes.
have to constantly practice. But this was the thing that got me, Shay. Most of the time we say practice makes perfect.
Mhm.
He said, no, no, no. Practice makes permanent.
Ooh.
Because if you practice something wrong,
Oh my. Oh my. Oh, now
it's
you going
not
there.
perfected, but it's permanent. You continue that pattern, you continue that habit. And so that thing stuck with me from I had him since probably 1984, 85,
Uh-huh.
through all of these years that whatever I do, I need to understand the right way to follow
Yeah.
through things because
Yeah.
whatever I do habitually becomes permanent.
My
And I
God,
want that
today.
to be right.
Listen, when I was a reading recovery teacher, one of the things that, and I don't know if you remember that, I was taught by my teacher was like, we don't want the kid to learn something and then practice it wrong because it takes so much more to undo that. There's what they call this milky substance that it lays a pattern down in their head, and to try to undo that is really, really difficult. And so, it almost makes me think about the school teacher that sends home homework. I'm like, okay, you want me to go home and practice this wrong? Or did you check that this is just an extension of me understanding and showing you that I got it? And
So
so it's
true.
like, what's the purpose of giving homework if you already check for understanding and your kids, or at least 90% of them, they didn't get it. So don't send my kid home to practice it wrong.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
permanent. Practice makes permanent.
my God today. Well, listen, this has been great. And
I
and
enjoyed it.
I do so believe that we are better together. And so like I said, I'm going to put some things in the show notes where they can find you on Instagram, which is SJ Delta Fall 92. You have your LinkedIn profile. You're just doing the most. And I feel like I want you and Joe to come back. I have to figure out where I'm going to put that in my schedule because I'm also trying to make sure that I have a good rhythm that's sustainable for me. But
Yes.
I do feel called to invite people on and have a conversation with them to help at least one person live the life that God has already determined is theirs to live. And I so believe that. And if one person can come on and share their story and where God has taken them and how God is using them, then that's what I'm going to do. And so again, I just want to thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you
Absolutely. Thank you
for
for
your
having me.
vulnerability. Thank you for sharing the transparency. It's just so refreshing because I don't like fake share. I'm
Mm-mm.
sure you know that about me.
I do know
When
that.
when I smell it, it makes me itch.
Mhm.
I'm learning how to fix my face because I'm just like, yeah,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
that's not God.
Mm-mm.
So I'm a work in
Liberation.
progress.
We talked about
I'm
the
a I'm
freedom.
a listen, I'm a work in progress. And listen, the older I get, because girl, I'm 5'1", 50 has one. And the filter sometimes will pop off, but I am asking God to really season my words because I want people to be able to hear. Because the other part of what I'm discovering is that when I speak, I want him to be speaking through me and not just for
Yes.
me to be babbling, just for the sake of babbling. Like I want to be able to share something that's going to be impactful to someone's life. So thank you again for coming on, and really grateful. I want to thank all my listeners for joining us on today. We may have a bonus conversation. Sherri and I were talking about that. And if we do, it'll be on my Facebook. But again, if you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website at lashayjohnson.com. If you enjoyed this conversation, I want to encourage you to share it and to subscribe to my YouTube channel and stay tuned because the best is yet to come. Take
Yes,
care.
it is.